My remarks will not take the form of a sermon. I'm a professor, not a preacher. Nevertheless, I want to begin with two scriptural references that I've kept in front of me in preparing this talk. The first, from Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, is one that I've tried to heed all my life, but especially during this year as your moderator. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. The second is a caution put forward by the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13:12. For now, we see through a glass darkly. I trust as I'll offer my limited and incomplete understandings of the status of our fellowship movement. They do, in fact, reflect acknowledgement of and direction from our Lord. I also want to reference a non-scriptural parable, that of the blind men and the elephant. You will recall that each man touched a different part of the elephant and separately concluded that he had encountered a rope, a pillar, a tree branch, a fan, a wall, and a pipe. I find this story relevant in assessing our Cooperative Baptist Fellowship or any complex organization, in that we tend to generalize about the whole based on our parochial perspectives and vantage points. Let me tell you what I've learned about Fellowship Baptist throughout this year through my extensive interactions with several organizational components: the Coordinating Council, the Advisory Council, the Atlanta-based coordinators and support staff, some of our field personnel, and many of our partners in the fellowship movement, along with the state and regional entities. These encounters have convinced me that our human resources are precious and invaluable assets, indeed blessings, as we pursue our vision of being the presence of Christ and our mission of serving Christians and churches as they discover and fulfill their God-given mission. I've drawn strength and inspiration from being in your presence. The early Christians embraced and adopted the older Stoic insight that all of us are citizens of two communities: the physical location where we live and work, and the broader community of humankind. They saw themselves as members of local congregations in communion with fellow Christians throughout the world. My year as your moderator has broadened and deepened my own sense of identity with and appreciation for the women and men who make up our fellowship movement around the world. I've found my colleagues on your coordinating council to be attentive, engaged, and informed. They take very seriously the governing responsibilities you have assigned them. They bring energy, enthusiasm, insight, and expertise to our 3 yearly meetings. Our advisory council consists of the chairs of the subgroups of the coordinating council. It convenes in preparation for and in conjunction with meetings of the coordinating council, and it acts on the council's behalf between our meetings. These folks assume a heavy burden with regard to time and travel and responsibility, and I've relied on them heavily, and I'm grateful for their friendship, their judgment, their wisdom, and their service. The Advisory Council also includes leadership in our Atlanta office. If you're a golfer, you might be familiar with the tagline of the PGA Tour's advertisement: "These guys are good." Allowing for gender neutrality, we can surely say the same for our staff leadership. Throughout the year, I've had a weekly telephone conversation with Daniel Vestal. It's been a highlight of my tenure. He is a kind, decent, and pastoral servant leader. He oversees our organization with vision and integrity, and he represents us in the ecumenical community in exemplary fashion. Daniel has assembled a team of gifted individuals who combine talent with commitment and collegiality. It's been a pleasure to work alongside them. In turn, they are supported by an office staff that is second to none. I simply can't convey the appreciation adequately that I've developed for all they do on our behalf. Beyond the Atlanta office, the CBF organization has taken root in 19 autonomous state and regional organizations. And I've had opportunities this past year to meet with their staff coordinators and a handful of the state coordinating councils. Through these sessions, I've got a much greater sense and much clearer picture of the overarching unity of our movement, notwithstanding some very real and substantial distinctions among these bodies. At the initiative of several of our states, we are developing covenant relationships, clarifying the interactions between the states and the national organization. And I must say, as a political scientist, I've found fascinating parallels between CBF and our federal governing arrangements here in the United States. I've also had occasion to meet and work with representatives of many of our partner organizations. Our relationships here are collegial rather than hierarchical. We neither own nor operate them. Rather, we relate in complementary and mutually accommodating fashion in developing and advancing our missions. These folks are deeply invested in our fellowship movement, and I'm grateful for their service and support.